A room at the Rose Mansion was haunted. Those who lived there took their own life or got smoked or disappeared without a trace. When a married couple was making love, they heard someone knocking on the door. They had to stop. A stranger stormed into their house and stabbed the husband. His blood splashed over their wedding photo, which scared the wife. The culprit drove her into a corner. Their neighbors heard her whine. But no one cared and the young couple just disappeared. A few months later, a family bought the condo. They was happy to buy it at an affordable price without knowing the danger was coming. As the family members worked far from home, only Song Ji-hyun was usually home. She was a senior clerk of a laboratory in the town. Her dad and younger sister worked in Busan. Song Hyang-sik, her father, was a director of a top hospital. Song Gina, her sister, was a receptionist at a hotel. It was Ji-hyun's birthday. Gina sent her a box of underwear as a birthday gift. They were close to each other. As Gina didn't get along well with her father, she hated to go home, so she had been independent since small. Currently, she was working at a famous hotel. She was clever enough to please the most fastidious customers. However, the team leader didn't like her. Kim Si-young was afraid that Gina would take over her. Gina was asked to clean the pool. Lee Yoon-ji wondered why Gina worked as a receptionist there when her father was running a hospital. Gina didn't want to lean on her family. Yoon-ji was suing the manager for sexual harassment. She asked Gina to stand as a witness, because Gina saw everything. However, Gina needed more time to think. At that time, her boyfriend called. He asked her out for dinner and shopping. Her boyfriend was a bad pharmacist, who was working at a small hospital. He asked her to help him get a job at a top hospital. She met up with him at night. During the meal, he mentioned a marriage, but she wasn't ready yet. Seeing her uncomfortable attitude, he took her to go shopping. She was happy again when he bought her a pink dress. She posted their photo online. Someone who often told her to be careful of her boyfriend suddenly stopped commenting after a while. When Ji-hyun returned to the Rose Mansion after a hard-working day, when the elevator was closing, an arm stopped it. It was a crazy woman who scared her witless. Her son said sorry and took her away. However, he stopped to see which floor Ji-hyun was going. Learning that she lived on the 8th floor, he watched her from afar on purpose. After packing it up for her business trip, Ji-hyun called her boyfriend, then left her home. While she was waiting for the elevator, a man in a raincoat appeared behind her. Ji-hyun discovered him, but it was too late to call for help. In the morning, Hyang-sik urged Gina to come home, because he couldn't reach Ji-hyun on the phone. He got so worried. Gina couldn't ask for leave. She told him to get home by himself, yet he was too busy at work. He just required her to go home for a check, then hung up the phone. The manager suddenly appeared when she was up to the wall. He knew that Yoon-ji asked her to stand as a witness, so he wanted her to be absent for a while. Taking the chance, Gina asked for a leave to go home for her sister. Everyone looked at her with a sneer of disdain. They thought she was backing out of it, that she didn't keep her words to stand as a witness. Gina did not bother to explain. As for her, her family was more important. After arranging her stuff, Gina traveled to Rose Mansion by train. A woman followed after her, but she didn't realize it. Gina saw her sister's car in the parking lot. Why did she leave home without her car? A crazy woman was cursing someone next to the car. Gina inquired after her. The crazy woman just ran away, which made Gina uncomfortable. Gina disliked to go home as the inhabitants there were very strange. Gina then went to room 809. She was on someone's watch. Seeing the trace of blood on the floor, she followed it. Someone hung a mannequin on the balcony. It looked so scary in the same pink dress as Gina. She was scared to death. Before she could pull herself together, someone was opening the door. Gina put herself on the defensive. It was her father coming home. She got mixed up. Hyang-sik had butterflies in stomach, so he decided to get home. Gina showed him the mannequin. He was also startled, and he could easily tell that the mannequin was in the same dress as Gina. It wasn't Ji-hyun's style. Gina stopped him from handling the mannequin, because it could destroy the crime scene. Someone was knocking on the door. Hyang-sik opened the door and asked why Sukja was finding for Ji-hyun. She said it wasn't important. Before leaving, Hyang-sik held her back and kept questioning her. Sukja said she had prepared a blind date for Ji-hyun. It was a man named Charlie, but she didn't show up. Hyang-sik thought his daughter was too perfect to go on a blind date. Sukja didn't know how to answer it. He wanted to run after her, yet Gina said they had to call the police first. They needed to find Ji-hyun as soon as possible. Together, they went to the police station. Gina saw the CCTV in the elevator. Gina suggested that they should check on the CCTV, which might tell them where Ji-hyun went. However, the security guard made many excuses not to let them check it out. He would let them check it once the policeman came with a search warrant. Hyang-sik was very angry. Gina asked him to go to the police station first. As soon as they left, the security guard immediately reported to a mysterious person. A woman continued following after them. Hyung-sik and Gina drove their car away. At the police station, her father couldn't calm himself down, so Gina reported Ji-hyun's missing. She also showed the police the photo of the crime scenes. If the police asked her to write a report form, and came to see the serious crimes investigation team on the floor below, listening to the officer, Gina went to find Detective Park. She asked her father to fill in the report form while she was finding the detective. Following the directions, Gina found Detective Park. They greeted each other and began the talk. With the evidences she gave him, Park thought she was being followed. Gina was so confused. The captain was finding for Detective Park. He gave her his card visit and heard his captain lashed out at him. Taking the chance, Gina stole the list of criminals under the control of Park, which she noticed as soon as she entered his room. Gina sneaked out of the police station. She and her father went back to the Rose mansion. On the way home, he received a phone call. He got out of the car to keep his conversation from Gina. Gina knew he had other fish to fry. She advised her father to return to Busan to finish the job, and let her go find Ji-hyun. Hyung-sik agreed and drove her to the Rose mansion. Then I returned to Busan. Gina was about to buy a few things at a supermarket, and overheard the conversation of a man named Charlie. Charlie was the man who went on a blind date with Ji-hyun. She decided to dig into Charlie, who was the son of the supermarket owner. His mother was crazy, so he managed the supermarket on behalf of her. Charlie got hoping mad when her mother dirted the floor, so he took her out of there. While he was busy outside, Gina sneaked into his office and found out that he was a malefactor. His iPad was full of adult videos. Thanks to the surveillance camera, she knew the staff was coming in. She sneaked out and pretended as a buyer. Charlie struck up a conversation with Gina. As he was attracted by her beauty, she didn't bother to talk to him. Coming back home, she checked on Detective Park's list of criminals. Most of them were sex offender. Only one was a murderer. He was living in room 603, building 110, Rose Mansion. Suddenly, a naked young man appeared in the house, startling Gina. It was Song Ji-suk, Gina's youngest brother. He used to live in the dormitory, so he was rarely home, and he didn't even know Ji-hyun was missing. Gina showed him the mannequin in the balcony. Ji-suk thought the crazy woman upstairs did it. Ji-hyun complained with the board of managers about her after she made too much noise. After that, the crazy woman did try to stab Ji-hyun, so he believed that the crazy woman hung the mannequin on the balcony. However, Ji-suk didn't think that Ji-hyun was missing, because he didn't see her suitcase in the house. Maybe she had a trip abroad and forgot to turn on the phone, so that they couldn't reach her on the phone. The suitcase he mentioned was in the heap of trash outside of the mansion. Gina felt so strange when Ji-hyun didn't tell them a word. Ji-suk didn't care. He was heading out to the internet cafe. Gina was scared to be home alone, yet, he still headed out. The following morning, the police came to their condo. Gina hid away the list of criminals. She showed the detectives the trace of blood and the mannequin. The officer found Ji-hyun's cell phone on the sofa. Detective Park wanted to analyze her phone. It was an iPhone, so the analysis could take a long time. Gina urged the police to make it quick, because Ji-hyun was missing for 4 days. Yet, the officer grew cross. They came for an investigation, not to find a missing person. Detective Park encouraged Gina by promising to try his best to find Ji-hyun, which rested Gina assured. Gina knew she couldn't count on them. She decided to dig into it by herself, so she visited room 603, where the criminal was living. Many people left a note to ask him to leave the mansion. Gina didn't see him home. Suddenly, a woman talked to her. She whispered to Gina that he was a psychopath. He took the lives of a married couple. Everyone wanted to kick him out of there. Sukja remembered that Ji-hyun talked to him once, while he was collecting leftover food in the trash bin for the wild cats. Ji-hyun asked him not to litter. He stared at her when she walked away. Sukja showed Gina the trash bins and reminded her to be careful. Gina wondered where the criminal lived. Sukja let her know that he lived in a camping van despite having his own condo. She went to find his camping van. When he wasn't there, she called the locksmith. When he could open the door, Gina got into the van, and found the underwear which she gave her sister as a birthday gift. He put them on the teddy bear. Gina took a photo of it as the evidences. When he got back to the van, she hid under the table. He saw the door left open, so he closed it up. Gina remembered she dropped her phone. She reached out to grab it. Unfortunately, he trembled on her hand. Gina covered her own mouth. When he took a seat, Gina could grab her phone. Someone asked the criminal out. They asked for his help as their truck was broken. He agreed to help them. Taking the chance, she sneaked out from the rear door. She then made a call to Detective Park. "It seems I found the person who kidnapped my sister. however, at this time. He was ambushing a group of criminals. When they caught a girl, Park hung up on Gina. He and Namyoung tried to save the victim. Two of them fought four criminals. Namyoung led the game. Park got a shower of blows while trying to protect the victim. Namyoung caught a criminal. Park ran after the other three, and got one of them. Gina left Detective Park a message. She asked to see him at a coffee shop. On the way there, she bumped into a student. She dropped her phone, so she borrowed Gina's phone to make a call. The student's phone was in a clump of grass. Actually, she did it on purpose to get Gina's phone number. Later, Gina and Detective Park met at a coffee shop. She showed him the photos she took in the van and claimed that the underwear was bespoke only for her sister. Detective Park decided to see the criminal along with Gina. However, the van was no longer there. Following the trace, Park saw the van parking in front of the Rose mansion. As soon as Park introduced himself as a detective to the criminal, he just ran away. Park and Gina chased after the criminal. She ran as fast as an athlete. He hid himself under the truck, struggling for a while. The criminal could run the blockade. Gina continued chasing after him, but Park lost sight of them. Gina caught up with the criminal, yet she was pushed away as Park wasn't there. The criminal entered a desert house. Jaina followed after him and he attacked her from behind. Fortunately, Park appeared in time to save her. The criminal was arrested for assault. Detective Park interrogated him in person. He believed that the criminal was a murderer. As a psychopath, he might take more lives. Speaking of the married couple earlier, he thought the wife liked him because she once smiled at him, so when he heard them making love, he got jealous and took their lives. As a result, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Namyoung showed him a photo of Ji-hyun. "You better not lie to me." He remembered the last time in the interrogation room. He was forced to confess the guilt. The criminal went into convulsions and foamed. Namyoung was so gasped. Park also felt confused. At night, Gina came home. Her dad was also there. She told him what just happened. He was filled with concern about Ji-hyun as the suspect was a murderer. If something happened to his daughter, he wouldn't spare the culprit. He wanted to interrogate the suspect by himself. He was wound up when she tried to stop him. "Don't care about your sister." Gina felt sorry for herself as her father had never cared about her. She gave up on him and went to bed. Her father realized how harsh his words were. He said sorry, but she didn't open the door. Gina was friends with someone on social media. They had talked for a long time. They shared with each other about everything in their lives. However, Gina didn't want to see her. It was better to be soulmate than knowing her true identities. While Gina was sleeping, her phone was hacked. Someone was remotely controlling her phone. In the morning, Gina received a phone call from Detective Park. He asked to see her at a coffee shop. Park wondered if Gina broke into the criminal's van. She had to admit it. The criminal's lawyer had come to the police station. They sued her for breaking and entering. The evidences she collected were rejected. Because the lawyer thought Gina set up those evidences, Gina felt very upset. As she wasn't honest with him since the beginning, he couldn't help her. She might be sentenced to 3 years in prison. There was no choice but to withdraw her complaint. As a result, the criminal would be free, so Park couldn't continue with the missing of Ji-hyun even though he knew that the criminal was related. Gina was disappointed when there was no way to catch him. Park needed a certain evidence such as a footage. His suggestion reminded Gina of the CCTV in the elevator, but the security guard didn't let her check it out. Detective Park knew how to handle it. Gina went home and told her father about that. Hearing about the release of the criminal, Hyung-sik came up with an idea. When Gina left home with Detective Park, he spied on the criminal and saw his smile. It drew him crazy. The criminal went to an alley. He had an aversion for kittens. When he was a child, a kitten stole his cat, leaving him with obsession, so that he wanted to eliminate the cats. Blood in Ji-hyun's condo wasn't human blood, it was the cat's blood. Hyung-sik lost sight of the criminal. He ran to find him and saw him executing a cat. Hyung-sik felt repulsion for the criminal's excitement. He kept following after the criminal. Detective Park took Gina to a fat man's place. He had 5 previous convictions, yet, he was working for Park as a hacker, who could check out on all the CCTV in the city. The hacker gave them all the footage of the recent months to Gina and Detective Park. According to the footage, Gina saw her sister coming home at 7:20 p.m. After midnight, the criminal went to the 8th floor. However, they didn't take elevator together to go down. There were no security cameras in the staircase. Gina had a closer look at the layout of CCTV. The opposite building had CCTV which might show them the staircases. Checking it out from the CCTV of the opposite building, they saw someone throwing the suitcase out of the mansion at 4 a.m. He went upstairs with someone on his shoulder. Gina could tell that was Ji-hyun by looking at the suitcase and the dress. Someone kidnapped Ji-hyun. The cat butcher was the top suspect. Meanwhile, Hyung-sik followed the cat butcher to a fish farm. He fed the fish with cat flesh. Hyung-sik knew he was crazy. Then he showed himself and asked if the butcher knew who he was. The butcher just put a smile on his face. Hyung-sik gave him a blow. The butcher said he didn't know where Hyung-sik's daughter was, but Hyung-sik didn't believe him. He cut off the electronic tagging. If Hyung-sik drowned him into the pool, no one would find his body. Hyung-sik asked the criminal for the last time. Both of them fell into the pool. When the criminal struggled, Hyung-sik dragged him to the van. The criminal screamed for mercy when Hyung-sik beat him up, but he didn't stop. Hyung-sik drove the van and his own car away, because people might be coming to the pool. Detective Park took Gina home. She wanted to tell her father that Ji-hyun was kidnapped, yet, he didn't pick up the phone. Earlier when he kept asking her about the criminal's address, Gina reckoned that he was coming to the criminal. Detective Park asked his colleague to find their locations, to see if they were together. Gina went home and slept all night. Her father didn't call her back yet. Neither did Detective Park find her father's location. When Gina was upset, the crazy woman upstairs made noise again. She knocked on the door. A man opened it. He was sorry for making noise. She accepted his apology. Suddenly, the crazy woman flung out of the room. Woman thought her boyfriend was having an affair with Gina. Gina got furious and decided not to let it go this time. All the neighbors were watching them. Man tried to calm his girlfriend down. After everything was resolved, Gina returned home and saw a parcel. Despite that she placed no order, the recipient info was her name. It was a sexy sleepwear, same as one of her sister's dresses. As the delivery man was still there, she stopped his van to ask him who sent it. He said he delivered no parcel to room 809. Who was the sender? Seeing a man was running away on a motorbike. She ran after him. He was Charlie. Gina found him in the supermarket. Charlie claimed that he sent no parcel to her. She made a mess there as the security guard was there. By claiming that Charlie was a stalker, she insisted on checking the CCTV. The security guard finally agreed. Charlie was seen to carry a parcel to the 8th floor. He made an excuse that he brought it to another condo on the 8th floor. Which room in certain? Charlie didn't know what to do. Sukja came and affirmed that she asked him to bring her some food. Sukja blamed Gina for making a noise since morning. Gina confronted all the inhabitants there. Gina said she was trying to find her missing sister. Sukja kicked her out when she acted like a crazy woman. Gina tried to struggle. Charlie said Gina was stronger than Ji-hyun. A lie has no legs. It helped Gina affirm that he was related to the missing of Ji-hyun. People in the mansion seemed to defend each other. Gina was alone. She called her boyfriend to complain about it. He said he was working out at the gym. In fact, he was making love to his colleague. When it rained, Gina felt more self-pity. A good news came to her. Detective Park just found her father's location. She was right in a conjecture. Her father was with the criminal. Park took her there. Along the way, she told him about what happened. It was a chance to pour her heart out. Hyung-sik brought food to the criminal. Feed yourself and tell me where my daughter is. Hyung-sik threatened to be more cruel if he still refused to tell. He used staple to hurt the criminal. The criminal still tried to endure the pain. Hyung-sik pressed the criminal's head against the door. His patience had reached its limit. However, he didn't notice one thing. The criminal used the can's sharp lid to cut his throat. Hyung-sik was dying in pain. The criminal asked him to stand up and fight. He ran away when seeing Detective Park and Gina coming. Seeing Hyung-sik was dying, Park called the ambulance, then chased after the criminal. He climbed onto a dam. Park tried to calm him down when he was about to jump. Everything would be resolved as long as he was alive. The criminal told him love conquers all in French, then jumped into the rushing water. Park couldn't save him. He went back to the van. Gina followed the ambulance to take her father to the hospital. Park handled the crime scene and reported it to the captain. The captain blamed him for failing to administer the criminal under his management. Park couldn't say a word. No matter what he said, he couldn't shun his responsibilities. At night, he came to the hospital to visit Gina's father. His life was saved, and he was still in a coma. Ji-suk rushed to the hospital for his father. Gina also told Ji-suk that Ji-hyun was kidnapped. She didn't tell him sooner to avoid distracting his attention from studying. The nurse announced that they could visit the patient. Gina and Ji-suk went to the sick room. Detective Park waited outside. Only one of them could get in the intensive care unit. Ji-suk took the first turn. Gina wished her father would not die, even though he had never treated him well. The following day, Gina went back to the Rose mansion. After a bath, she stood on the balcony and gave it a thought about what happened. She noticed the one-way lane and realized something. Gina told the hacker that if the kidnapper drove a car, he had to go through a one-way lane. The thing was that no car left the mansion at 4 a.m. Gina believed that the kidnapper kept Ji-hyun in the mansion. The hacker thought the same. While Park was investigating about the kidnap, he went to the research institute to inquire. They said Ji-hyun cleared her desk for a transfer. Park found no clue at all. Park and Nam-young met a man who often contacted Ji-hyun. It was her boyfriend. On the day of the kidnap, he was on a business trip to Canada with the minister. Nam-young confirmed that their trip was on the news. Ji-hyun's boyfriend reported about her missing as he couldn't reach her on the phone. Her family also reported to the police station about her missing. He asked Park if something happened to Ji-hyun. Park couldn't say anything in advance. Ji-hyun's boyfriend had to go after a phone call. Gina called Park about a new clue. He and Nam-young immediately got back to the Rose Mansion. Gina and the hacker were checking on the camera layout. The CCTV in the first floor of the opposite building was covered by the trees. Gina, the hacker, and Park gathered around to check out on the covered CCTV. They were checking the parking lot out. The hacker analyzed that Ji-hyun was kidnapped in the building 117. The CCTV of the building 116, which was opposite, looked over the stairways of building 117. The parking lot was between the two buildings. If the kidnapper took the one-way lane out of the mansion, he would be sure caught on the CCTV. However, no one took the lane at that time. The hacker found a path leading to building 118 and 119. Maybe the kidnapper carried Ji-hyun through this path. He used the camera dead zone to carry Ji-hyun away. That meant he knew this mansion very well. The hacker assumed that Ji-hyun was kept in building 118 or 119. Detective Park was not sure. Gina asked for a search warrant. However, the officers couldn't get it with just their doubts. Gina went back to her room to clean up. She saw the address of the delivery company on the parcel the other day. She decided to get there. It was just a sample invoice they gave their partners, not the official in use. Because their official invoice had the barcode, Gina asked for the list of the partners who received the sample invoice. The supermarket in the Rose Mansion was on the list. Gina was so sure that Charlie sent the sexy sleepwear to her. When Gina came home, she saw the hacker was attaching something on her condo's door. It was Detective Park who asked him to install a camera in front of her condo. Those who came to her house would be seen through the camera. He connected the security camera to her laptop so that she could view it on her own device. Before he left, Gina asked him for one thing, which was to dig into Charlie working at the supermarket. He agreed after making a price. At her room, Gina called her boyfriend. He was sleeping, yet, she heard a woman next to him. At this point, she realized he was cheating on her. Feeling sorrow, she asked Detective Park out for a drink. She burst out crying after what happened. Detective Park comforted her. "You're a strong person. Everything will be alright." Waking up in the morning, she remembered that Park asked her to find Ji-hyun's laptop. She remembered the wooden box that their father made for them. She indeed found the laptop there. At that time, the hacker called her. He found something she needed, so she headed there. The hacker learned that Charlie was a pervert, who saved a lot of nude photos of girls. Moreover, he even saved Gina's photos. It seemed that he aimed at her for a long time. Gina saw something unusual in his selfie photo. She zoomed in and realized it. Gina waited outside of the supermarket until Charlie left. Sneaking into his room, she found out that he had guns and illegal hunted animals, and he even kept many mannequins which were the same as the one hung on her balcony. She suddenly heard a noise outside. Unfortunately for her, Charlie had returned to the supermarket. Gina sent Park a message for help. He immediately set off for her. Charlie searched around the supermarket to find the intruder. He picked up a gun and came towards the mannequins. Gina took a chance to sneak out of there. He saw and chased after her. Charlie seemed excited because he was going on a hunt. Gina ran very fast. Charlie was extremely frustrated losing sight of her. Gina panicked and hid on the roof of the supermarket. Detective Park showed and introduced himself as a police to Charlie. Charlie gave up on her. Park scolded Gina, "Why did you do such a dangerous thing?" Gina told him about the clues found by the hacker. Perhaps Charlie had spied on Ji-hyun for a long time so that she wanted to dig into him. In order to find for more evidences, the hacker acted without Park's approval. Detective Park tied him up as a warning. Gina persuaded him to forgive the hacker as it was her who asked for his help. If Park didn't release the hacker, she would tune herself in. Park made concessions to her. Gina bought the hacker a meal as an apology for dragging him into this. At the restaurant, Detective Park let Gina know that another team was in charge of her sister's case. He was not allowed to bear a hand in the crime. The hacker wasn't happy hearing the captain's name. He was willing to falsify evidences for money. which turned the innocent men into criminals. Detective Park encouraged Gina that Captain Zhang was a man of ability. It wasn't easy to falsify evidence. They must be careful with him though. Park promised to protect her no matter what. After the meal, Park drove Gina home. She forgot giving him Ji-hyun's laptop. Turning on the laptop, she found a strange folder. Gina wanted to open the folder but it required a password. So she texted Park. Her message was read by a young woman. Ji-hyun's laptop was found. The girl had a devilish grin. The following day, Gina went to see the board of managers for a list of cars in the parking lot. She wanted to borrow their dash cams to find for more clues. However, the manager did not agree. At this point, a woman complained about the stinky smell in the water. She asked them to check the water tank. They just agreed with her first. Gina followed the woman to ask for a bottle of the water. Gina gave the sample of water to the board of managers. Combining with the fact that her sister was missing, Gina reckoned that Ji-hyun's body was decomposing in the tank. The manager suggested that she would ask the police for the search warrant. Thus, she went to ask Detective Park for help. Captain Zhang overheard them. So Park took her to a coffee shop. Without the authority to investigate the case, he couldn't help her get a search warrant. She still entrusted him with her sister's laptop. As a man of his word, Park began to dig into Charlie, the #1 suspect. However, on the day of the crime, Charlie had an alibi. When Park was leaving the supermarket, he saw a fleet of police heading to the Rose mansion. Captain Zhang got a search warrant. Despite his dirty works, he was really a man of ability. The police force quickly sealed off the mansion and then split up to search everywhere. This made all the residents extremely confused. Captain Zhang required the board of managers to let them check out on the water tank. If they found nothing there, he would be scolded by the head of the police department, so he was trying his best. It was really a body in the water tank. Gina wanted to verify it. Park used his power to help Gina verify the body. He was very angry when they didn't allow him. Based on the regulations, Park said the family member had the right to verify the body. Captain Zhang let them in, however. It was the body of Charlie's mother. When Charlie saw his mother's body, he tried to make himself cry. He couldn't tell the police where she went as she was crazy. No one noticed when she disappeared for days. The police had to withdraw first. Park took Gina downstairs. Ji-suk called to tell Gina that their father woke up. She set off to the hospital. His first question was about Ji-hyun's trace. Gina tried her best to find her sister, yet, her father didn't bother inquire after her. She was quite loud so that Ji-suk took her out to mellow her out. He asked her what kind of person Ji-hyun was. As for Gina, Ji-hyun was a perfect woman. Her career was thriving. Ji-suk claimed that Ji-hyun wasn't as good as she seemed. She kept many things from them. Ji-suk showed Gina a girl was going live to show her skin and do sexy dance, and she was none other than Ji-hyun. It was her secret. Gina believed there would be a reason. Why did Ji-hyun show her body to earn money? They must find her for the answer. The woman also watched her live stream and gave a scornful smile. She told her boyfriend Ji-hyun was a naughty woman, and even wanted to tell everyone about that. Her boyfriend told her not to upset the family of a missing person. Nevertheless, she still shared the videos to everyone. The residents thought Ji-hyun sold her body. Sukja heard what they talked behind Ji-hyun. Everyone wanted to kick Gina's family out. Sukja didn't say a word. While later, someone found her for a talk. The others left to let them talk in private. Suddenly, the short-haired woman gave Sukja a slap. Sukja didn't dare to resist. The short-haired woman blamed Sukja for letting the police find the body, which affected their plan. "I'm not your dog." Sukja slapped her back when finishing her words. Though she had someone backing her up, Sukja could easily handle him. She threw water at the short-haired woman and kicked her out. She suppressed her anger. When the police carried out an autopsy, they found a key in the mouth of the body. Captain Zhang received the report. The victim died of an accident, not a murder. It was also the victim who swallowed the key by herself. No one put it there. However, the coat on her body was of Ji-hyun. They found her DNA on it. Zhang wondered what they had to do with each other. An autopsist only performed an autopsy. The investigation wasn't their duty. Captain Zhang was deep in thought. He gave Detective Bei the key and ordered him to find the lock. When all the police left the scene, Gina came to check out on the water tank and found Ji-hyun's bracelet there. Detective Park also came there. Gina showed him the bracelet she just found. Their late mother gave it to Ji-hyun. Someone broke the bracelet. Gina remembered the crazy woman tried to take her necklace once. Perhaps she did take Ji-hyun's bracelet. It was sure that the crazy woman knew where Ji-hyun was, yet, she was gone. Gina suddenly remembered something. She showed Park the videos of Ji-hyun. Detective Park didn't believe it was Ji-hyun. After analyzing the footage, the hacker said it was faked. Someone used deepfake to defame her. The hacker only found it out when comparing the pupils. Gina wondered who did this, and what was his purpose. How could the hacker know? Detective Park would investigate it. Those who convicted of defamation might be sentenced 7 years in jail. The hacker was aware of that. In the afternoon, Gina went to the spa run by Sukja. In order to ask for more information, Sukja didn't agree at first. As soon as Gina offered double, she changed her mind and took Gina to her home. The aunties were talking about the murder. Charlie was the one who benefited the most after she died. Because she had a lot of money, the Rose Mansion belonged to her. Sukja asked Gina to take her shirt off and lie down. As shy as she was, Gina only unbuttoned her shirt. Sukja gave her a massage. After the massage, Gina returned to her room. While she was sleeping, the couple on the above floor fought. Meanwhile, 2 men in black covered the CCTV in front of her condo. They broke into her home to search for something. Gina was awakened by a noise. One of them pointed a knife at her. They told her to give them the laptop. Gina would rather throw it through the window. The man in black lost his mind and strangled Gina's neck. Gina was knocked senseless and dragged to the bathroom. She woke up in the bathtub being tied up. Gina tried to scream for help. The intruders already left. They went down to pick the laptop. However, they seemed to be disappointed though what they wanted was Ji-hyun's laptop. In the meantime, Detective Park came to see Nam Young, who was demoted to a traffic police officer. She was breath testing a driver. However, he verbally abused her. Nam Young pointed a taser at him. The thug wasn't scared at all. Detective Park showed up and gave him a lesson. He also took down the thug's brothers when they tried to attack him. Detective Park angrily breath tested the thug, revoked the driving license and took him to the police station for resisting and obstructing an officer. At that time, he got a call for help from Gina, so he left the scene. Gina untied herself and ran away from there. The man in black no longer saw her there. He had to find her. However, Park found her first. He put his coat on her and got her in the car, in order not to worry her brother and father. She asked him not to take her to the hospital. Detective Park let her stay at his home from then on, as it was safe for her. Gina wanted to take a bath. Detective Park was shy, so he went to the grocery store to buy some stuff. He chose anything that she might need. Gina was touched by his action. He was the first one who cared for her. Even her boyfriend and family didn't care for her that way. Park Min-soo thought she deserved it. Gina gave him the password to her home when he went there to examine the scene, and when she woke up in the next morning, he didn't return yet. In fact, he was farming outside to avoid waking her up. Gina wanted to help. Min-soo taught her about aquatic plant. She wished to be like them. The aquatic plant could live a new life even when the environment was changed. Min-soo encouraged Gina that she could find a new place to live, and start it over. As for Gina, human and plants aren't the same. The plant can be pruned, yet, ill fames continued throughout our life. Min-soo changed the topic by asking her where he should put the pot. Gina put it on the table. At this point, Min-soo received a phone call. He asked Nam Young to analyze Ji-hyun's laptop. She learned that Sukja paid special attention to Ji-hyun. Ji-hyun refused to let Sukja in all the time. It seemed that Ji-hyun kept a report. Sukja warned Ji-hyun that she wouldn't have a chance to send the report. If she tried, she would be in danger. Ji-hyun didn't change her mind. She still asked Sukja to leave. When Min-soo took Gina home, they encountered her boyfriend. Gina didn't want to talk to him, though he tried to hold her back. They went to a restaurant together. Gina asked him to let her go. Nonetheless, he blamed her for going out with another guy. Gina knew he slept with another woman. She left in anger when he kept denying it. At that time, Detective Park reported to Captain Jang about the break-in. Captain Jang was in charge of Ji-hyun's case. Maybe the intruders the previous night were related to the kidnapper. Captain Jang scolded Detective Park for interfering with Team 1's case. He was too stubborn. Detective Park kept insisting on examining Gina's home. Only when the captain sent someone there that Detective Park got back to work. When Min-soo was watching the photo of Gina and her sister, his colleague saw by chance and realized the symbol of a religion called World Mission Society Church of God. With the guidance of his colleagues, Min-soo went to meet the director of Religious Studies Institute. He said the Israeli gathered around the towel to repent their sins. In the 2000s in South Korea, a new religion was founded. The bigger number of believers was, the more of mass suicide. They worshipped their head of the religion, whose words were messages from a devil. No one dared to oppose. The head of the religion was Jang Tae-man. He had a female secretary. After the radical actions, the religion was purged by the government. All the believers were caught. Only his secretary could escape. she was even more cunning and difficult to deal than the head. Her name was Han Hongju. She looked similar, but Min-soo couldn't remember her. Captain Jang and Detective Bei examined the bathroom at Gina's home. Everyone was confused when it was clean. Suddenly they heard a noise from the balcony. Ji-hyun was hung there. Detective Bei cut the tie. Ji-hyun spoke. "It was all your fault." Gina asked the officers to help her call the ambulance. When Ji-hyun was taken to the ambulance, the residents gathered around to see what happened. Captain Jang took another way to avoid the reporters, and Ji-hyun passed away on the way to the hospital. Ji-suk got restless as soon as he got the news. Gina was in grief when seeing her sister died. Her sister even blamed Gina for her death. Gina was broken-hearted. Min-soo waited for her outside. He left as she didn't open the door, and he promised to find the truth. Charlie tuned himself in as the kidnapper. He said hello when encountering Min-soo. Min-soo asked Nam-young to bring him Charlie's statement. He bought her a meal as a thank. However, he even left before she agreed to help. At night, he brought Gina a meal. She still couldn't accept why Ji-hyun blamed her. Gina couldn't get it out of her head. Min-soo encouraged her. There must have been something else. He was sure to find it. Nam-young went to see Detective Bei to see how it was going. Bei told her everything. Charlie confessed to fake the videos of Ji-hyun and post them online. Charlie was arrested on charges of insulting another person's honor. Captain Jang required Bei to find the lock for the key in the crazy woman's mouth. Bei couldn't find it in the Rose Mansion, so he gave it up and kept the key in the evidence room as an useless proof. Nam-young was willing to help Bei find the lock. As long as he helped her restore her previous post, Bei gave it to her without thinking much. Gina was seeing her father in the hospital. He knew something happened to Ji-hyun by looking at Gina's facial expression. Gina told him the truth, which broke his heart. The result of the forensic examination reported that Ji-hyun didn't take her own life. Someone strangled her to death and hung her body to falsify a suicide. She had a wound in the back of her head. However, this was not the real cause of death. They believed that the culprit needed help to hang a body of an adult. Captain Jang knew it wasn't a simple case. The detective Lee called Captain Jang to report about Gina. Gina's colleague said the underwear she gave Ji-hyun wasn't bespoke. Those gifts were made for the Harrington Hotel's VIPs. That meant she intentionally slandered the murderer. Furthermore, Gina's missing boyfriend was found dead in a lake 3 years ago. Captain Jang could tell that Gina had a problem. He told Detective Lee to check on Gina's alibi on the day Ji-hyun was kidnapped. At that point in time, Ji-hyun's funeral was taking place. Many people attended to bid a farewell to the head of the institute. Gina's colleague also paid a visit. He told her the police came to the hotel and knew about her lie. "You better not go back to work at the hotel." She thanked him for his sincere advice. Nam-young told Min-soo what she heard from Detective Bei. Charlie was released despite what he did. Park came to the supermarket and beat him up, even though he knew this action would cause him to lose his job. However, he couldn't spare such a jerk. After that, Min-soo visited Gina and they talked. He believed that Gina was a good person who felt disorientated after her sister's death. Gina leant on his shoulder as she really trusted him. He had proved his sincerity. At midnight, Charlie complained with his friend on the phone while closing the supermarket. As Min-soo gave him a good hiding, Charlie wished someone would handle Detective Park. Just as he finished speaking, a man in black attacked on him. He used a knife to cut Charlie's throat. The next day, the police were present at the scene. They saw only blood, no body. They could not find any bodies or air. Min-soo wondered where the culprit took Charlie's body to. Everyone was crying in pain when Ji-hyun's body was cremated. Hyung-sik asked Gina why she didn't cry for her late sister. Her silence upset him. After that, Gina packed it up and moved out of the Rose Mansion. Ji-suk couldn't hold her back. Gina received a phone call from Captain Jang. She then came to the hospital as he requested. Captain Jang went straight to the point. He doubted that Gina had something to do with her sister's death. Jang could tell that Gina was good at telling lies. She answered his questions without anxiety. Jang said the underwear she gave Ji-hyun wasn't the only one. He wanted to know why she lied to everyone about it. She told a lie to make the police find her sister as soon as possible. Captain Jang then asked for her alibi. She said she went to work then on a date with her boyfriend. At around 9 p.m., she returned to her room. Jang knew there was a time for her to travel to Seoul by train, and kidnapped her sister. Furthermore, she even used Ji-hyun's identity to match a few men on Tinder, according to Jang's assumption. Gina wanted to take place of Ji-hyun. Knowing that Jang had watched the footage of the kidnap, Gina told him a woman like her couldn't carry Ji-hyun on her shoulder. Jang said the kidnapper had a partner. He continued, the culprit returned to set at the scene after kidnapping Ji-hyun. that was why Gina asked for a leave to go home for a few days, to make herself the first one to discover the crime scene. Next, she found a surrogate, thus, she used the hobby of the cat butcher to turn him into the suspect. In order to destroy the evidence, Gina provoked her father to eliminate the suspect. Finally, she made herself a victim to escape from being doubted by asking her partner to attack her. If the attacker really wanted to get rid of her, she would have lost her life. Zhang wondered why the attacker could easily get in and out of her condo. He was aware of her place. Gina had arranged a perfect play. Captain Zhang also mentioned her ex-boyfriend's death 3 years ago. He thought she made it a suicide. Her ex was a swimmer. How could he died in the water? Gina's facial expression changed. She looked scary. Zhang would definitely find out the truth. As soon as Gina left the police station, she was surrounded by the reporters. Gina looked so pale. Min-soo helped her get out of there. He was the only one who trusted her. At night, Captain Zhang received a report of forensic examination. They found the chemical fertilizer NPK-12 in Ji-hyun's body, a high-quality fertilizer used for plants, and the seeds of carpensis were found in her fingernails. However, Ji-hyun didn't plant it at her home. It would definitely be an important evidence once they found its origin. Detective Bae remembered, the person who often chatted with Gina used the nickname Carpensis. Captain Zhang reckoned that Carpensis was her partner. He asked Bae to collect all the messages, and found who Carpensis was. In the morning, Nam-young walked around the mansion with the key. What if the lock was changed? A man took her to the dumping ground of the mansion, after a long day of searching. She finally found it, the lock for the key. She brought it to the evidence room for the fingerprint on the doorknob. A while later, she received a call from Captain Zhang. They gathered around with them. The captain of Team 2 also found the same evidences. The culprit might be interested in plants. Detective Park was well aware of plants. He endlessly talked about plants. Detective Choi doubted that Min-soo was Gina's partner. Because they were close, after the meal, Min-soo went to the Rose Mansion and remembered that she moved out of there. Gina didn't pick up the phone, so that he sent her a voice message, which was seen by her boyfriend. He followed Detective Park along the path to the building 118 and 119. In a blink of an eye, Min-soo disappeared. In the morning, Detective Bae found who Carpensis was. His real name was Park Hyung-chul. Born in 1965, someone used his identity to chat with Gina. The address was also false because Park had been missing for 10 years. Captain Zhang didn't believe that Park magically returned. It must have been someone living in the Rose Mansion using Park's identity to cause all those. Captain Zhang ordered Bae to find anyone whose name was Park Hyung-chul living there. Ji-suk called to tell Gina that Dong-hyun came to their condo the previous night. Gina came to the pharmacy to ask him not to bother her anymore. However, he didn't go to work, so that she sent him a message. Min-soo was keeping Dong-hyun's phone. He rejected her call. In a room full of green plants, someone was begging for mercy. Detective Park was a crazy man in love. Gina had been suffering a lot because her excellent sister always wanted Gina to be as perfect as she was. As they were out of tune with each other, Park kidnapped and kept Ji-hyun in his secret room. Because of that, Gina had to move back to the Rose Mansion. Detective Park lived in a condo opposite her room. He watched her from afar every day. Dong-hyun followed after him last night, and learned that Park was living in the 11th floor. As a result, Min-soo locked Dong-hyun up in the room. Nam-young came to the evidence room to take the result. Detective Park's fingerprints were found on the doorknob. She thought it might have been a mistake. Detective Park couldn't be a criminal. She decided to talk to Captain Choi. He looked quite strange. He seemed to know something, so he asked everyone else out. When Nam-young wanted report about Ji-hyun's case, Captain Choi persuaded her not to interfere with Team 1's case, as he didn't want to catch his subordinate by himself. They could only keep a hope that Min-soo wasn't the culprit, but if the worst happened, Choi wanted Nam-young to persuade Min-soo to confess. She still insisted that he wasn't the culprit and wanted to ask Min-soo in person. Detective Bae did find the one named Park Hyung-chul, who rented a condo in the Rose Mansion 5 years ago, room 1104, building 118. Captain Zhang set off with his team. At this time, Dong-hyun was begging Min-soo to spare him. He said Gina wasn't worth of Min-soo's protection. In his eyes, Gina was a cunning woman who always acted as a victim and kept telling lies. A man blind in love wouldn't listen to someone else. Min-soo wouldn't do anything to Dong-hyun if he hadn't taken advantage of Gina. He was very angry when Dong-hyun kept offending Gina. When Min-soo was about to get rid of Dong-hyun, he heard the police siren. Knowing he was exposed, Min-soo fled away. Captain Zhang kept the building blocked by encircling force. A group of officers bumped into Min-soo at the emergency exit. He was in all black. after knocking all of them out, he was on the run. Jang arrived at the room 1104. He found Donghyun was tied there. Donghyun told them that the culprit just ran away. Captain Jang couldn't reach the team at the emergency exit on the walkie-talkie. When he arrived, the whole team was taken down. While his team was taking Donghyun to the hospital, Captain Jang returned to the crime scene. He found the binoculars looking over room 809 and a bug. His team lost trace of the culprit. Captain Jang sent a team to Gina's condo for an examination. Indeed, a bug was found in the room. Donghyun claimed to the police that the culprit was the detective going with Gina. Captain Jang was really amazed when it was Min-soo. Nam-young asked for support from Min-soo's condo. Captain Jang came there at once. Nam-young was pointing a gun at Detective Park and persuading him to confess. Min-soo asked her to give him time to see his beloved for the last time. Nam-young was very upset. Captain knew Min-soo was the culprit, yet, he gave him a chance to correct his fault. Min-soo only cared about the woman he loved. Nam-young agreed to let him go. He asked her to pass his apologies to Captain Choi and fled away. The police saw and surrounded him. Park attacked them and then ran for his life. The police failed to arrest Park Min-soo. Captain Jang hit Park when he was on the run. Min-soo held Detective Bae as a hostage, giving Bae a shot. Park threw him to the ground and kept running. Captain Jang sent more men to follow Park into the wood. After escaping from the police, Min-soo asked the hacker to get him a cell phone which couldn't be tracked down. The hacker didn't know what was going on, but still agreed to give him one. It was too late for the hacker to realize Min-soo just stole his car. However, the hacker could track the position of his own car. This was his plan with Sukja. She used Min-soo and Gina to do something scary. At this time, Gina got a call from the police. She was asked to persuade Min-soo to confess, because he only listened to Gina. Hence, she went to Seoul by train. Nam-young took her to room 1104. Gina wondered if Park Min-soo really took Ji-hyun's life. Nam-young wasn't sure. Gina wanted to be alone. After Nam-young left, Gina went around the apartment. Min-soo observed her through the binoculars and took photos of her, and hung them around his room. Gina was so sad when she knew it too late. After that, Gina told her father everything about that. Her father and brother couldn't believe that Min-soo was such a kind of person. Gina asked her father if he had ever thought she took Ji-hyun's life. His silence gave Gina the answer. She went out immersing herself in thought. Min-soo suddenly showed up and put her under anesthetic. The following morning, Gina woke up at Min-soo's home in the countryside. Being struck with awe, she asked him what was going on. Detective Park calmed her down and told her everything. When he was small, his father was gambler. His father used violence on his mother and verbally abused him. One day when Min-soo failed to control himself, he took his own father's life. His mother buried her husband's body under a tree to protect her son. The tree grew bigger and bigger. Min-soo's mother wished him would be a policeman. He was all alone after her death. When was a rookie, he fell in love at first sight with her. Thereby, he stalked her, and found out that she had many secrets. To satisfy his curiosity, Min-soo took the identity of Park Hyung-chul and rented the room 1104 opposite her room to observe her. He was also Carpensis, her online friend. 3 years ago when Gina had a boyfriend, Min-soo drowned him to death. He wanted to keep her from himself. After a fight with Ji-hyun, Gina moved to Busan, which put him in despair. Within a year, he carried out a plan to revenge on Ji-hyun and bring Gina back to her home. Min-soo admitted to kidnap Ji-hyun, and shifted the blame on the cat butcher who had a short-term memory. Just as he planned, after Ji-hyun was kidnapped, Gina came back. He did all those to prove his love to her. Gina considered him a psychopath and he didn't deny it. Whatever she said was right. When Gina wanted to see her sister again, Min-soo was about to release Ji-hyun. However, she disappeared. Someone took Ji-hyun away and ended her life. That was the man in black breaking into Gina's home. The intruder wasn't Min-soo, who would never hurt Gina. As long as Gina told the police about that, he knew for sure that the police would find the intruder soon. Captain Jang would help clear him of accusation, and the real culprit who sent Ji-hyun away forever. Gina was so confused. She hated Min-soo, yet, she couldn't revenge him. Based on what he just said, there was still someone aiming at her family. Captain Jang was very furious when they failed to arrest Min-soo. He asked Captain Choi if he knew where Min-soo was. Captain Choi didn't care as it wasn't his duty. The captains almost got into a fight. A while later, they began to talk when they could calm down. Captain Choi knew Min-soo kidnapped her. However, he was sure that he wouldn't end her life. Captain Jang thought the same. In order to clarify everything, they had to find Min-soo first. Choi remembered Min-soo had a house in the countryside, yet, they were too late to get there. After Gina left, Min-soo took his owl life to repay for his sin. Nam-young was staying at Gina's home to find evidence that could prove Min-soo's innocence. After a meal, she went to the bathroom to wash her hands, and saw a drop of blood on the toilet. It was the blood of the intruder. She took the sample, and brought it to the medical examiner. It was the blood of a stranger. At the same time, Sukja went to see him and introduced herself as Han Hongju, the secretary of the head of the new religion. It was the opening of the next season. The return of the religion and schemes of the new head will be released in 2025. Love is blind. People are willing to do everything for the person they love. Is your sacrifice worth it if your beloved doesn't recognize? Love in a smart way, and care for yourself. Thanks for watching. See you next time.